welcome to episode 3 of Coast Football Weekly. This week's guest is Stevie Skene, president of Southern Ettalong Football Club. Thanks for joining us and welcome to the pod.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Now, when we first went out to socials with that we were doing a podcast this year, we asked people who they might want to see on, and your name came up quite a bit. So we're able to make it happen. If people don't know you, just give a bit of a brief background into sort of your football journey and how you've come here today.
Yeah, it's been an interesting one. I was born in Queensland, actually. Grew up in Sydney, right near Marconi. But from about the age of 8, grew up in Central West New South Wales and played all kinds of sport out there, but actually was in different football codes to start with. Went into football probably around mid-high school and played through university and whatnot, and then met my husband who was playing Sydney Premier League. We were about 19 then. He was a bit older. And my football journey became his football journey, and we just didn't really look back.
When did you make the move to the coast, and when did you first sort of become a volunteer within sport?
Yeah, so we moved to the coast in 2023, I think it was. We'd kind of always done the usual things at sport, like the field setups and helping out in that kind of capacity, but it wasn't anything extraordinary until we came to Southern. So we ended up at Southern. A workmate of mine was Club Person of the Year the year before we joined. And we were just talking at work. I said I was moving to the coast. I said, what, football club should I be joining? And he said, look, I think you'd fit in really well at Southern. And so we walked in and we just really never left after that. It all happened very quickly.
And now coming from Sydney sort of to the coast, was there any big major differences between obviously the clubs and sort of how a Central Coast team operates to what you were used to in Sydney?
Yeah, look, I think Sydney has a big, I don't know how to put it, but probably ethnic influence in each club, right? And my husband was in the Bankstown area. He was at Yagoona for a little bit and at Bankstown. And it's an interesting dynamic there of, I guess, who runs clubs and who influences decisions. And ultimately, though, they're just some of the most passionate clubs. I think it's the passion that is really different. Everyone in the Bankstown area, in that Sydney kind of space, they're at every game. The games are huge and they're so passionate. And, you look at the Wanderers and their kind of fan base, and that's replicated all around certain areas in Sydney. And everyone just wants the passion of football so badly. They want it from under fives all the way up to, the golden era. I think the coast, it doesn't have that quite yet. It's kind of a bit take it or leave it with football. And even though we're the biggest sport here, the craze around it and the culture around it just isn't quite at that Sydney level yet.
It's a bit more laid back.
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of like, oh, yeah, we head to the football or we don't. There's just no option to miss it in Sydney, right? You're there every weekend, sun up to sundown. And Matt's grandfather, he kept going to the games long after Matt finished playing, right? Matt went out with an injury and we moved to Forbes when we were having our eldest daughter. And, yeah, Matt's grandfather kept going because there was just not an option to not do that. He'd always done that. And I think you see that at a few clubs with one or two kind of old blokes, but yeah, it's not the same. It's very laid back and very kind of, we'll move clubs or we'll stay at this club. Sydney, you stay where you are. You just have always played there. And I guess I don't know if it's you don't have to leave because you're in Sydney and you can follow an NPL journey, but otherwise guys just stay there forever. It's insulting to kind of, ask anyone if they're thinking about leaving their club. They're like, no, I've been here forever.
When you first came to Southern, did you think that in just a few years you'd ever be president of this club?
Oh, I would say no, but my husband would probably say very different because at the time that I was kind of going into the president role with Southern, I was already president of my kids' P&C, and it was a role that I'd had and was kind of accomplished everything I wanted to. And I think I was probably looking for something that I could do for a really long time, right? When you're volunteering in a school, you're only there as long as your kids are there. And like I just mentioned kind of with the Sydney League is you stay and you don't kind of leave. And I felt like that was probably where we were going to end up with football. And so I don't think I'd ever thought, oh, when we finish playing or we finish doing this, that we'd go into administration. It just kind of happened, and you're right. It happened really quickly. I did one season without an exec role, and then was president the next season. So it just happens, I guess.
3 of our 23 clubs have female presidents. You're obviously one of them. What do you think women bring to sort of leadership roles in a volunteering aspect?
Probably really thorough communication.
Something men can't quite do.
We're better communicators than most, and I hate to lean into any stereotypes, but organisation. I think female run or led clubs are just way more organised than most other clubs. I think if you've got a strong female secretary, then that looks a little bit different, but I think we bring a bit more of a holistic view to things where we're really good at looking out rather than looking down. And so we do see these bigger pictures of wanting to care about all the areas of the club and not just, the boys' teams or even just the girls' teams. I think we have a better rounded approach sometimes, and a lot of respect for all the men that have mentored me in my journey, and all of them have been men. I've never been mentored by a woman in this space, but I just do think we bring that probably more nurturing and I guess maybe stoic approach to things and looking at them from all angles.
Do you think that the female leadership in football is becoming more common?
I don't know. It was only last year, Paigey and I were standing in the clubhouse for a state cup game, and I think this kind of scenario spoke volumes to women in leadership positions and women in football. But a guy from the opposition walked into the clubhouse and he said to me, "Oh, hi there, dear. Do you know if I can find someone in charge?" And I was like, "Yeah, mate, I'm the president." And he said, "Oh, are you? Good for you."
Oh,
we were just like, whoa. It was... really, it was such a bizarre thing and I was kind of like, yeah, they let us be presidents now. That's,
Who would have thought?
Yeah, mental. So I think, I don't know if I'm seeing more of us in these spaces. I think you look at WPL on the coast, for instance, and the female representation in coaching in that alone, there's not a lot. I think we still hold this managerial role in junior teams and non-comp teams. I don't think we're quite, we're not breaking any glass ceilings by any means. But I do think that the time of that change is happening now. So whilst I don't think it's kind of happened and we're seeing it, I think we're in the middle of it now, and it'll be one of those things where day to day nothing changes, but when we look back, everything will be really different.
When you look at the numbers, even for the whole of the Central Coast, we're up in female participation all over the board.
Yeah.
Mini Roos through to juniors through to seniors. Southern, very good women's program all the way through.
Yep.
You've featured on our socials recently for our Coast Kick Packs. For those who don't know, every under 5s to under 18s girl receives a match ball and a drawstring bag, thanks to our partners at Wyong Leagues and Summit Sport. You were one of the first to get them out to the sort of the girls. How did they receive that?
Oh, they were so excited, and it was really cool to watch little girls own the space they were taking up, right? I think you think about women in football, and I always say you just have to take up space, girls. You just don't worry about it. Just go for it. And to see little girls explaining to little boys that, they were getting that because it increases participation and that this is predominantly their sport and they're showing up. And it was really cool to watch little 6-year-olds kind of have that conversation, right? There's some fierce little girls getting around, particularly at Southern. And, yeah, female participation is huge. I think we have the highest female participation on the peninsula. And we have to nurture that in the game, right? I think it's kind of the same as the Matilda phenomena that we're seeing at the moment. I think the AFC is probably, given us that push again this year that we would have seen from the World Cup year, and doing things to support that. last week we watched the Matildas versus Iran game at home, and we had a big inflatable screen out. And the first Matildas-based event that I ran at Southern had 12 girls show up.
Mm-hmm.
And last Thursday had 55 girls show up. So I think that speaks volumes about where we're heading as far as female participation. And, you know, WPL's great. Like, we had a Div 1 women's team 2 seasons ago, and to watch what happens when you have a women's Premier League and how that elevates female participation as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Div 1 girls are incredibly hard workers and phenomenal players, but having a women's Premier League makes a different standard for girls to be what they can see, right? And I think that brings girls to a club as well.
Especially something to inspire too.
Oh, absolutely. Like, you have someone like Diaz at your club and every little girl wants to be like that, right? And I think it's the coolest thing ever to watch.
I watch Diaz play and I want to be like her. She's faster than me and she can score better than me. So
yeah, she's got some power to her, that's for sure.
Now, in my role, in my sort of day-to-day, I don't deal with many presidents, so I'm intrigued to sort of know more from a club perspective on how you perceive things. What are some of the biggest challenges you face each season?
Workload. I think I have a full-time job. I have 2 children. My husband has a full-time job, and then Southern is a full-time job. So you put, 60 hours a week during pre-season in, and the harder you work in pre-season, the easier your season is. I'm a big believer of that. I think once the season starts, we're kind of cruising around and it's all just operations, but pre-season is enormous. I think one of the challenges we're facing at Southern at the moment is probably managing growth with sustainability, where a club that, for while I'm president, will be capped. I don't have any aspirations to have 1,000+ players or anything like that, and they're the type of volumes we're seeing that want to play at Southern.
Mm-hmm.
Having to cap our teams at 70 teams, 700 to 800 players is about where I'll stop. It's a huge challenge. It's a hard thing to tell kids no, and surprisingly, 35s, 45 players, like that kind of category of players really want to come to Southern as well. And our rep Corwin is forever having to turn guys away that want to play there. And it's probably our biggest challenge at the moment, for sure.
Now, some people probably hear this and think, well, wouldn't you want as many people registering to your club as possible? Why cap at a certain point?
I think for me, it's about quality. It's about what we produce at Southern, and can we keep doing the level of, excellence that we do there if we have 1,200 people or 1,000 people? And the answer for me and my team is no. I love knowing all the players, all the mums, all the siblings. I love knowing and waiting for, the under 12s have got a sibling who's turning 5, and I know that child's turning 5 and they're about to start playing. And I love when the Premier League have kids and then they start playing. And I think, we were talking about it the other day, that I never want to be standing in Woolworths and see a child in a Southern shirt and think, who is that? Who is that kid? Like, I love knowing them, what team they play in, what position they play, being able to talk to them all. And I just actually think my brain's at a capacity where I just can't do it. But I think on top of that, it's fields and stuff, right? We're very lucky with the facilities and amenities that we have at Southern, and that we own, like our clubhouse and our change rooms and things like that. But you can't just pack all these people onto fields, right? You have to allow adequate space to train and gear and shirts and bibs and balls and all the other stuff that comes with it, right? And when it's raining, everyone wants to use a whiteboard and wants to be in the clubhouse. And I just don't think we could do that if we didn't cap what we do at Southern.
And my last 2 guests on this podcast have been coaches, and they speak a lot about within their side culture. For you, what does culture mean as a club in general? How important is that for you and for Southern?
Yeah, culture is incredibly important, right? Because I think everyone thinks what we have in common is football. and then someone will get injured and can't play, or someone moves away. And what we actually all have is culture. We have the same love for that little clubhouse in James Brown Oval, right? And the colours and the lion, and without that, you don't have anything. It's important that everyone's integrated and everyone knows what we're there to be doing, and that the seniors are in with the juniors and the juniors are on the sideline for the seniors, and our 35s and 45s make up most of our coaches as far as, our non-comp space, and our MPL and WPL make up coaching staff. I think it's what's left when there's not football anymore, right? And at some point there won't always be football for us. You have to walk away whether you get tired or injured or something else comes in, and yeah, you have culture left when football's not there anymore.
And you speak about your Premier League intertwined with your juniors. What sort of initiatives and pathways do these juniors have to then want to grow up and then obviously become Premier League players?
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a controversy when I came in as president because I banned barbecue duty. The Premier League weren't mad about it. I think maybe one person was, and I said, look, it's fine. This is what you're going to do instead. And the reason was because they were on the barbecue, and I get that that's chipping into the club and that's part of the culture and whatnot, but it wasn't as impactful of what we ended up introducing. And when I took away the barbecue duty and said no more of this, what we brought in was our MPL and WPL attend junior games on weekends, always at home. But we give the coach kind of a week or so's notice to say, hey, these are the 2 players you're going to have in this week. They're there for warm-up. They help with warm-up. They're there for the halftime talk. They watch the entire game. And then at the end, they present the Player of the Match awards. And having them in there is huge. When Harris broke his leg last year at the Budgie game, that little team that he saw one time all sent like little messages, and the coach was like, oh my God, and they'd had this sudden connection with this one player, right? I think integrating them in that way when they can't commit to coaching, because coaching's a huge, like, it's such a big job, right? And I know that all of them would if they could, but being in the Premier League is a big commitment as it is. We demand a lot from that squad, both men and women. And so having this, that takes an hour of their time rather than multiple hours over the week is something that they can do. And then we have a bunch of our MPL coaching our pathway squads. We have them either with each other or with an accredited coach. And our WPL are the same. They all, I think about 4 of them now have got a team each. So it's, you've got to have them in there. They've got to be able to see that they care about them. And then they come to the games and they watch the football, and they once again get to be what they can see, right?
Yeah, such a little gesture goes a long way, especially, I mean, as a player, a senior player, I probably don't realize it myself, but I'm contracted to go to JDL sessions, and that's part of my contract up in Newcastle. But then you see those kids on the weekend and they're there cheering for you, and you realize, oh, they do look up to us. This actually means something to them. We'll speak more on your academy and sort of and how that sort of come about, and the pathway that they do have to become sort of a senior and a top player at your club.
Yeah, so the Pathways program kind of came about the end of 2024 it was. My daughter had decided that she was going to leave the coast and go to Newcastle to pursue, I guess, a better quality of football was kind of what she had said. And particularly being female, that happens much sooner than I think it does for boys sometimes. And it really broke my heart to think about being at Southern so soon without her. I still have my son there, and obviously my husband's there, but I was really shocked that I was then going to have to also juggle Southern as well as she went to Valentine. And it broke my heart that she felt like she had to go.
Yep.
And so I started putting together this concept of I guess an academy, but it was something that I could feel kids were chasing, right? Or that families were chasing. And so we did our first trials for it. It's called Pathways Program or Pathways Academy. It's having a slow rebrand to stay up to date with language, I guess. But the whole concept was that it was our A grade football team for that age group, and they would receive coaching from a combination of, B, C licensed coaches with NPL or WPL player in tow. They would play their usual winter comp, and then we would take them away as much as we can. That currently stands at 3 times a year. So we take them to a pre-season cup in Narrabeen in February/March. Then we take them in July to Central Coast International, it's called now. And then in October, we take them away to Sydney International. And that was kind of where they could get that next level of competition, but they didn't have to leave the coast. It was, I guess, in a real nutshell, bringing NPL to grassroots, right? And they get the tracksuit and they get the backpack and they care about that type of stuff. But it was a hard call because I'd made a decision to not have dads in there, right? And predominantly it's dads that coach these teams. But to be able to give that, I guess, holistic coaching approach that the coaches have no vested interest in this as far as a child participating perspective, and that these were just all their players and they felt the same way about all of them, and that gave a really well-rounded kind of program. And I'm really appreciative to those guys that, volunteer to do it, because it's really important. The program has grown from 2 teams last year to 7 this year, and 2 female teams this year. So very excited. My daughter has returned home.
It's good to hear.
Yeah, she thought, oh, this is good enough, I'll come back. So, they train 2 days a week. We make sure they always train, no wet weather washouts for the Pathways program. They stay training, so they go to the pool or they go do calisthenics sessions with the NPL, which is always a really fun session to at least throw on the socials. Or they go to, the wet weather pitches here. We book them plume, whatever we can do to keep them training. And that's the whole thing, is that they always train. They train well. They're guided by licensed coaches, which seems really important to, I guess, parents who are paying a little bit extra. And they get to get up and they get to go away. And it's a long season for them, though. Like, essentially, our Pathways teams start now in February and they don't finish till October. So it is a really big season, but it was something that had to be done. We've got so many children leaving the coast all the time.
And if these players do want to go ahead and play at a high level, how does the club support them through that?
Oh, I will ring anyone who wants one of my players and let them know that they're good to go, right? But that's genuine pathway. That's NPL, or that's Sydney, or that's going somewhere where there's a genuine pathway. It's not going to, I guess, an academy or someone running a business called an academy that, is doing whatever those kind of businesses, I guess, around us are claiming to do at the moment. It's if someone wants to go to, to Bell Swans or to Valentine or Charlestown or Marconi, like I'm happy to ring. I'm happy to provide as much as I can about players. I'm totally supportive of them. I'm the first to call them to see how their trial went. And they have left us, right? We've got heaps of players that have gone up to Newcastle, but it's prolonging, I think, that for them. So last year we had 2 take off to one to Valentine, one to Charlestown. I think a few went to the Mariners, which we're always super supportive of, and I'm very thankful for our relationship with the Mariners to be able to help them go there if that's what they want, or to Jets. But the year before we saw, I think nearly, 15 children leave to chase something better. So I do think it's just keeping them on the coast a little bit longer while they get that fully rounded experience and still maintain that little bit of fun as well. I think some kids go and they think, oh God, this is so serious and I wasn't ready. I didn't have my fun yet. And Pathways kind of supports that so that they don't have to skip out at 8. They can stay at home and focus on football rather than travel and all of this other stuff that comes with it. But totally supporting in anyone going to follow true pathways.
And where do you envision your Pathways program to go next? What's sort of the next step in your mind?
Yeah, I think at the moment it is about longevity, right? I've got no appetite for it to go really huge and unsustainable. And that's kind of what I was talking about before with sustainability versus growth. It's about making sure that the quality of it is right, that we do trials right, we look at children correctly, we make sure that the program is delivering what it needs to deliver, that we iron out all the kinks. And at this stage, our appetite kind of sits at only 1 Pathways team per age group in boys and girls. I think next year's focus is probably going to be at least one more girls team. I'd probably like to see that the 18s kind of follow that program to support the depth of our WPL. And I'd love to see an 18s in the boys as well. But for right now, it'll stay where it is. It's working pretty well, and it's only in its second year. So we still need to polish up a few things, but ultimately it's about sustainability. So making sure that we're not changing too much about the program or the original ethos, and that we lose touch with what it was there for originally.
Now, speaking of these pathways, we did have someone reach out. We obviously took to socials again to let people know you're coming on.
Oh, yeah.
One of the questions we got was, what are two sort of junior teams that people should be keeping an eye out for this year?
Yeah, look, in my experience, the entrance is always really strong. A lot of respect for the entrance and what they do up there, and their teams are always one of those ones that I know that the kids especially are kind of like, oh, like the entrance. I do believe Southern will perform really well in the juniors this year. I think they've got a really strong basis and they're back. I'm not sure how much kind of people know, but we had a really huge gap in the juniors when I took over Southern, and they're back there. So we're only missing one age group these days, where we had about a 6-year gap when I took over. So I do think Southern is one to watch, and then obviously always Terrigal. I think Terrigal are marvellous at putting together what is their kind of, I guess, equivalent of pathways, right? Their academy teams, and they select really well, and it's a strong place to be if you're a junior, and I think, yeah, they'll always finish kind of around the top there.
Now, another question we had is one that I actually really want answered, and it's, will Keith Gums keep playing till he's 80, or is he bound to retire soon?
Keith's our technical director this year, right? And I guess for transparency, offering Keith that role had a lot to do with the fact that I thought he was going to be done. And I thought he was packing it up. We'd won a trophy. He kind of, I thought he had got what he wanted out of it, right? And so at risk of him leaving us, which I don't know if he ever would, but at risk of him leaving us, I was like, let's jump on everything there is to love about Keith and how much Keith knows, and let's get him in here to direct this club from a technical aspect. I think Keith, I mean, I see him at training and I think he's playing, and he's Keith, right? I don't know if anyone could really stop him. I hope he plays till he's 80, because I think he's one of the coolest players ever to watch play. And I'm very thankful to be, in Keith's space and galvanized by everything that he brings to the game in now 2 different areas at Southern, right? That being administration and the technical direction, and then also still hanging out with our Premier League.
Now, you mentioned a trophy. Last year was a great year for Southern's NPL side, ending a 28-year drought, becoming NPL premiers in first grade. What exactly did that mean to the club, to the players, and yourself?
Oh, I don't. It's one of those things where it's like, can you really explain it if you weren't there, right? And like, I was 5 the last time we won a trophy, and Glenn Bowneves and Neil Ferguson and Craig Ferguson were all there, and then it was really cool that they were still there when we won it last year. But it meant so much. I've never seen it just enrich everyone's lives for that split moment that we did it, right? And I think last season was a huge performance by Southern. We wanted it more than anyone, and I think that was really clear every time we stepped on a pitch, right? But that trophy was for everyone of the last 28 years. I am very encouraging of the boys to go get one for themselves this year, because I think last year's was for everyone else, and it was really cool to watch Todd, lift up that trophy, and we have a photo of Glenn doing the same thing 28 years earlier, and for everyone who doesn't know, Todd and Glenn are father and son combo. I think it was proof that we could do it, right? That culture could do it. And essentially that's what that trophy represented. It was 28 years of culture and hard work and slogging it out. And like I said, I tell the boys all the time, go get your own one this year. Like, this is your time now to do it again. And it's for you.
Yeah, well, they've only added some quality players to the squad, so on paper, they're definitely one of the teams that should be there come the end of the season. When it comes to the future, sort of, what are your goals as for Southern as president over the next sort of few years?
I think I'm really big on the fact that I'm not the boss of Southern, right? The I'm the employee or worker or whatever it is of all of our members. And so I'll go as far as our members will let me take them and lead them, right? I think for Southern, I want it to continue to just be really quality. I want us to always be producing fun, high energy seasons where we are the underdogs and we're a little bit rough around the edges. And I know that. I think all of us have got, you know, a lot to say about a lot of things sometimes, and maybe our approach isn't always right. And I know that I don't really have the temper for football even. But I want Southern to be the best. I want it to keep being the club that it seems everyone really wants to be at, right? And it is. It's such a good club. I want the culture to never go away. I want it to keep getting stronger, and I definitely don't want anyone to ever leave, because every single person at Southern genuinely is like this little puzzle piece to our football experience. But ultimately, I just want it to keep doing well. I want it to be sustainable. I want it to grow where it can. I think our focus for the next few years is definitely about our facilities and our amenities and what we can do there to continue the quality of Southern. But I just want it to keep being Southern.
And is there one thing you're most proud of during your time as president of Southern?
I mean, that trophy is a hard one to look past, right?
Ending a 28-year drought, so yeah, it's up there.
I'm proud of us looking after genuinely everyone. Our team and our committee genuinely looks after everyone. We care about under fives right through to over 45s. We care about our MPL as much as we care about our WPL. We care about our, paid roles in our canteen manager and clubhouse manager as much as we care about our secretaries and registrars and everything. And everyone cares so much, and I'm so proud of all of that. I'm proud that we look after everyone as well as we can, and that we do keep it really quality and really fair. And it's something that I hope keeps going. I genuinely want, B and C grade to still win trophies.
Mm-hmm.
I still want them to develop. And as long as we're better every year, which I think that we are at the moment, I'll continue to be proud of being better every year.
And as a volunteer, do you have a message to someone who is thinking about getting involved in their local club who's unsure?
Yeah, do it, but love takes over, right? Like it really does. There's not a lot I can say about Southern. I didn't never thought, oh yeah, I'll do this or I'll do that. I just was going to work in the merch shop a little bit and like throw a few singers on a Barbie and whatnot. But be totally prepared for it to take over your whole life in the best way possible. And there are roles that are little roles and there's big roles, and I'd love to be like, you can be as involved as you want to be, but ultimately once you're in, and I don't know about other clubs, but once you're in Southern, you want to be there more. It's a really cool experience. I couldn't help but suddenly be dedicating so many hours of my life a week to it. But I think, yeah, for sure, definitely, it's terrible pay. I think someone asked my secretary the other day how much we get paid, and I think she almost passed out because obviously we don't get paid anything. But do it for the right reasons. Do it, to give back to the club. Do it knowing that without you it doesn't run. I think if you're doing it because you think there's something in it other than just like heaps of football and a really good time, you're in it for the wrong reasons. So yeah, do it for the right reasons and because you want to do it. Don't anyone forced into doing it or feeling like they have to. It never works out. So want it if you're going to walk in there.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and giving us some insight on what it's like to run a football club and being a president. We really appreciate all the work that our volunteers do. So we wish you and Southern all the best for the season ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Legend.
Thank you very much for listening to episode 3 of Coast Football Weekly. Please remember to like and subscribe on YouTube and leave a rating and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next week.